I am, and so it's obvious to her. And I have no doubt that the Minister consulted Aaron Gilmore.
I call the Honourable Minister, Bill English.
Can I thank the member for his kind invitation to help clarify these matters? I think the first question he raised was who had been consulted before decisions are made by the Finance Minister or the Cabinet. Well, of course, we do consult Mrs Adams and other knowledgeable members of the caucus, which is all of them. Very democratic caucus, very democratic process. I'd have to admit, not every member of the government or the cabinet would have its head around just how the SUPs work, supplementary estimates or changes to them. So we'll just explain it. And I think actually Mrs Adams and the Chief Whip made a good point, which was that these matters were all dealt with while we were in recovery mode from the earthquake. So the sequence, as I recall it, was that there was a strong push to set up CERA, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Agency, and the House, including the opposition, was notably cooperative in getting that entity set up. Because it was a new government department, the focus at the time it was set up was on particularly its powers rather than some extensively thought through budgeting process about what activities it would have. Certainly not a process that we would replicate in government, where you wouldn't set up a new entity without a lot more clarity about exactly what funding it would require, at least for the next 12 months. So in this case, CERA was set up, big focus on making sure it could pick up the powers of the civil defence, emergency management powers, CDEM, so that it could get on with the job of getting the recovery underway. And at the time it was set up with a budget of about $4 million, intended to be an administrative budget, enough to get the people in place, its capacity to work with the council and to exercise some of those powers. Within a fairly short time, it became apparent that it had to get on quite quickly with some practical tasks, particularly around demolition. And it's surprising to those of us who spend a bit of time on it just how complicated these issues get quite quickly. And so CERA having been set up, the deadline for finalising the details around the supplementary estimates passed in early April. CERA was set up on the 29th of March, so within about 10 days the supplementary estimates deadline, or 10 or 14 days, had passed. At the same time as a discussion was going on about what CERA could or couldn't do, bearing in mind that at this time it had no chief executive, no staff, no premises, but because of the urgency of the situation, the government was already, particularly under the decisive supervision of the Minister for Earthquake Recovery, my colleague the Honourable Jerry Brownlee, that there was work to be done. So the money that was then required to allow CERA to get on with the demolitions could not be obtained through the supplementary estimates. In other circumstances, in other departments, you might have been able to shift money around perhaps, but even then it would have been still after the SUP's deadline. So we didn't really have the choice of waiting around to be able to appropriate it later on in the process that necessarily has to go on between Parliament and the Executive. So the choice really would have been either we'd known enough about the activities of CERA within a week of it being set up, and I'd have to say that was been a bit difficult. On the other hand, we couldn't really wait around for the next phase, because a big part of the commitment I think we've all made to the rebuilding of Canterbury is that we make what decisions can practically be made as quickly as possible to try and build confidence in the face of what are fairly difficult circumstances. So that's how we've ended up here with the SOP, which covers about $27 million for property demolition and related costs and compensation, and also allowing some money for demolition-related property purchases. Now, that all applies to the CBD. And actually significant progress has been made there, Mr Speaker. Significant progress
the Honourable Minister
has been made there with, I think the latest estimate I heard is several hundred buildings that have been demolished. That progress is not visible to many people, but part of it has been the capacity of CERA not just to exercise the powers that this Parliament has given it, to be able to encourage and occasionally compel building owners to get on with the job, but it has needed the funds to be able to exercise those powers. So I know the House is approaching this particular issue with goodwill, and it's really the demanding circumstances of getting CERA up and running that have put us in what is actually an unusual set of circumstances. I think the member asked if there's some kind of precedent. Well, in a procedural sense, it's not. You can't. There's no particular difficulty with carrying out this particular procedure, but I don't think that has been done for some time, and I would expect that in the normal process of good government, it would happen very rarely.
I call the Honourable